Yeehaw! It's time for the Texans Squad, sponsored by Gametime. Everything Houston Texans, every week. Bringing you the big hits, game-changing plays, and all the action straight from the Lone Star State. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Saddle up and squad up. It's the Texans Squad Show, starting now.
It is the Squad Show on a Friday Squad Show here for the Houston Texans. I'm Michael Connor. That's Dan Norfleet, Iisha Morrison. John is not with us here today. He'll be back for Tuesday's show. We have lots to get into as minicamp has come to an end for the Texans. They have also, unfortunately, had some things in the news that we're going to talk about here as we get the show started. I also want to ask the question tonight, are the Texans underrated in 2025? And some players that have apparently risen in minicamp and others that have fallen in minicamp. We have a lot.
I thought minicamp didn't matter. That's what they say.
Apparently it does matter. Hey, tonight's episode of the Locked On Texans Squad Show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. All right, so we're going to go to the most prevalent piece of news, and it's one of these topics that we all don't want to ever talk about. But when you live in this world, when things happen, you have to talk about them. Texan safety, Jimmy Ward was arrested a couple of nights ago, guys, for a family violence situation in his home out in Magnolia, which, first of all, I was like, Jimmy Ward moved here and decided I want to live the furthest away possible from NRG Stadium. Like, what a crazy person. Unfortunately, he is accused of doing some pretty terrible things to his fiance. What do we think of this situation? What do we think the outcome will be with this situation? Obviously, a suspension from the NFL is going to come from this. I'd be shocked if there isn't. But will he be a Texan this season, I think, is the biggest question from it.
Iisha, I'll defer to you here.
Well, first of all, I mean, this is something that unfortunately we see in this league often. And we've seen the NFL, I want to say in the last couple of years, feel like they have kind of cracked on it a little bit more. It's unfortunate. My heart goes out to his wife and her fiance rather experiencing this. As a DV survivor myself, I think it's important to speak up about this type of stuff. And I am curious. I mean, we're going to talk about the repercussions on his NFL career and what that means for him and what this means for the Texans. But I want to speak to mostly the human part of it, is that it is an awful thing. And I think it's important for us as people who do this work to make sure that we can separate the player from what he is doing and marry the two together if it's necessary when it comes to stuff like this. A lot of people people are willing to sweep a lot of stuff under the rug for a player being good. But when you talk about, this level of violence and the details that came out, this is not something we can ignore. And with the Texans moving forward and trying to be what they want to be, I think it would look odd if they didn't address it or do anything about it. So I just don't think it's good for the culture. It's not good for the optics, and it's not good for the league at this point for this type of stuff to continuously be happening.
Appreciate the commentary there, and Michael and Iisha, the willingness to broach what is obviously a delicate topic when you talk about arrests, when you talk about the encounter with domestic violence on any level. Jimmy Ward, 33 years old. They gave him a contract extension last year. We'll get to those ramifications, but this is a woman that he has some history with going back to his high school days. They both hail from Mobile, Alabama. So 4:30 a.m. Thursday morning, we all know Jimmy Ward arrested in Montgomery County, as Michael mentioned, which is where Magnolia is. And at this point, it is felony charges that are alleged. He's out on $30,000 bond. All right, I'll spare our audience the details. You can read them for yourselves for those that choose to do so. So that's that part. Every person deserves their day in court. I presume he will get his, and then I'll let the attorneys do their piece. The National Football League, however, who has chosen to let the legal process play out, They have something that we are familiar with in the city of Houston, given some things that have taken place here over the years. The personal conduct policy, which the meat of the personal conduct policy says players, coaches, staff, and other NFL personnel are held responsible for and in violation of the personal conduct policy for any activities deemed to be illegal, violent, dangerous, or irresponsible. So, yes, Michael, I do suspect that Roger Goodell and the National Football League office, they are going to hand down a suspension of some sort. Jimmy is, from my understanding, a first-time offender in this space. There was a baseline suspension originally of a minimum 6 games, of which you can appeal from there. That gets into some other cases. I don't want to get distracted from there. Stan, what do you think? I think that 33-year-old Jimmy Ward, who, mind you, came here at the request of D'Amico Ryans, who they obviously played and coached together. The relationship formed in San Francisco when D'Amico was the defensive coordinator. He trusts Jimmy. He has talked a lot, especially in that 2023 season where Jimmy was one of the follow Jimmy, do it like Jimmy, and you'll be okay. So this one has got to sting a little bit for D'Amico personally, but D'Amico understands he has a job to do now that he's the head man of this organization from an on-field standpoint. All right. This is D'Amico, the first arrest in the D'Amico Ryans regime. I believe I heard it on Texas All Access. In the last 20 years, the Texans are one of the fewest arrest records of teams in the league. They have really steered away from problem children.
Yeah.
Okay. I believe Jimmy Ward is going to be cut by the Houston Texans. If so, prior to week 1, it will count $4.6 million in dead cap dollars against the Houston Texans salary cap for the 2025 season and freeing up about $1 million and change. Behind Jimmy Ward, you have a rookie, who was that, Jalen Smith, I believe, that rookie out of Penn State. You got, obviously, thank goodness, the starters would be Bullock and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and I believe that's M.J. Stewart has been rotating in because Jimmy's been out with a banged up foot anyway. So I know that's lengthy, but that's just how I see it. Jimmy Ward has played his last game in Houston, I believe.
I think Stan is right. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to add that allegedly.
Allegedly, for sure.
Yes, allegedly. I was just going to say, I think that, he needs to be able to play his last game here. Move on.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
The on-field production from Jimmy Ward last year, I mean, the Texans surrendered a ton of big plays. I harken back to week 1 at the Indianapolis Colts. Yes, a game that the Texans did win, but mind you, the ball was flying all over the place, and it was large part Jimmy Ward getting beat. Sting had a tough play for a chunk yardage, but no one has lost any confidence in Sting, and that's why you saw the progressive integration and the meteoric rise of NFL all-rookie safety Caleb Bullock, a former third-round pick out of Southern California. You double down. I think they win in the offseason. You try and go get C.J. Gardner-Johnson as, trying to make a strength stronger, and lo and behold, I think they went and got C.J. G.J. because they thought from a health standpoint, Jimmy Ward has been nicked up.
Yeah,
now you have him because, he becomes a starter, and him and Bullock, 2 ball hogs back there off and running.
Yeah, I mean, and then obviously too, I feel like free safety is a position that gets kind of, I don't know, it don't get enough love. I think that obviously we focus on, the strong safeties, the guys that are really focused on helping out in the run game and stuff. But man, having a good free safety really does shore up your secondary. So I'm not going to sit up here and act like, losing that depth is not important, especially from a veteran standpoint. But you got to do what you got to do. You got to set a precedent, obviously, and then you got to protect this unit that you have. I mean, this secondary everyone thinks that this secondary is going to be a big part of why you succeed. You don't want any extra dealings and drama going on. You want these guys to go into the offseason being able to rest and have clarity. So it is what it is, man. It sucks. It sucks.
I think the next question that comes from this is, what if they don't cut him, though?
Ooh.
I mean, is that a problem? Because we know that how tight-knit this locker room is. We know the culture that they've put into place. Like, Does that kind of move, they said, hey, you know what, we're going to let the process play out. We're going to see what the NFL does, and then we'll go from there. Like, does that fracture the culture that you've built if you're DeMeco Ryans, if you did make that decision to keep the player around?
What you got, Stan?
It's a great question. Having been in my share of locker rooms and still obviously communicating with other guys, former and current players, I can tell you the locker room it's a sacred place. It's one of the more unique dynamics in modern society because you're protected in many regards by we play a barbaric game and you're a part of, I call it Neanderthal culture, not saying the individuals are, but that is the barbaric nature of the game that we play. And in that locker room, you're going to have, but it's 2025 at the same time. And you're going to have some men in there that have done things that, or been a part of things, or have family members that have been associated with things. And so it's going to be a varied thought process if he is retained. We also need to hear, obviously, like what are the legal ramifications here? I think DeMeco had better tread softly on this one because you don't want to get, from a leadership standpoint, you don't want to get pigeonholed into, I'm going to look after my guys. But if this was someone else that wasn't deemed as a DeMeco guy, what would that response be? So you have to maintain some level of consistency and transparency in that process. The other thing is, I think you got to be careful. And let me also, in that comment, say, I think that it is, coaches hate this part of the offseason. I assure you, when DeMeco addressed that team after practice on Wednesday, DeMeco told every single person in the organization, specifically the players, be smart this offseason. And here's a veteran who he personally selected. It's one of those, it just becomes extremely dicey. And last part I'll say on this is, I have confidence in DeMeco to do the right thing, whatever that means. He knows the men and the people in the building way better than the three of us. So I trust in DeMeco to do the right thing. Here's what I also know. DeMeco has already proven he can do the hard thing because he fired his man, Bobby Slowett.
I think it's a fair point. I mean, you got rid of him. I just, and knowing the McNairs here and kind of how they've operated. Now, look, we all know that they kept the Deshaun Watson issue on the roster because they were always going to trade him away and not just cut him. And there was a lot of money involved in that and whatnot. But obviously, I think back on their history, they haven't really. I can't think of them keeping around anybody that's had any kind of real trouble at all. I don't think it's in them. I think that this stuff is something that they just completely stay away from, which is probably a good thing, right?
Yeah, because then why formulate that new code that in the last part I think I heard you say, Stan, was irresponsible behavior? Why even implement that? Or I think you said violence as well in there.
Illegal, violent, dangerous, or irresponsible actions are in breach of the NFL's personal conduct policy.
Yeah. So I mean, it falls within the guidelines. And what I will say though is, I know y'all know who CJ Gardner-Johnson is, but he is a bit of a wild card as well, as far as like even on the field. Like, I'm not saying that he's a guy that does a whole bunch on the outside, but he's someone that is a little fiery and all that stuff as well. Are you feeling like it's necessary to, Stan, we know you don't like to put a lot of faith in rookies. I mean, are we comfortable with a Jalen Smith being the guy to possibly take that spot? Or are you looking for more of a MJ Stewart to be able to do that? Because does this put you're down 2 DBs. If you do cut him, you're going to be down 2 DBs. Obviously, the unexpected retirement of Darby and then losing Jimmy Ward. This is a strength of your team. Yes, it's a strength of your team now, but we know that things happen during the season, injuries and those things. And you want guys that can come up and man that spot if necessary. Do you feel like the guys behind him are capable, or is this something that the Texans might be looking to address?
I'm not comfortable with Jalen Smith getting snapped. like, and we'll get to this in the next segment when we start talking about expectations and how we project for the 2025. Right? Like the bottom line is this: the Houston Texans should be trying to win a Super Bowl. So if you're asking me if something were to happen with Bullock, who was a rookie last year in his own right, and I understand that his profile as a third round out of USC was a little different than Jalen Smith, who I believe was a 6th-round pick out of Penn State at safety. Still a big boy program, but a little different there. And just from a draft selection standpoint, I also think that, and from a skill set standpoint, a little different. I think we're going to see MJ Stewart, and they will also bring in another veteran to just somebody that can backfill the roster. Now, here's an idea that many in Texans Nation may not like. Doesn't mean it's not a bad idea. What I would start doing is I would start making sure Jalen Petrie got more reps at safety. I would start making sure Jalen Petrie, moonlighted, and just make sure you remember how to do this in case we get in an actual game situation. I can move Jalen Petrie back to safety if I need be, and I can move Kamar Lassiter into the nickel corner where Petrie would vacate, and then I would put my cornerback 3 out there on the field, making him my cornerback 2. That's what I would start doing, at least practicing that type of position.
No. And that's why I posed the question, because I do agree. Like, he was an important piece to your depth. Well, he is an important piece to your depth. He's still on the roster. He's still here, all this stuff. But I do think what type of planning would they do? And I agree with you saying, I think Petrie might be the best person to do it. I do think he thrives in that nickel spot. I don't want to move him out that nickel spot.
I don't either.
He's going to be a dominant player there. But if it is like worst case scenario, I do understand that would be probably the best route, because you don't want to get continuously get worse in those spots. So I agree. That's cool.
You also got to remember the safety position, they are not heavily compensated. So to go make a deal, which we know Nick Caserio loves to wheel a deal, MC, it wouldn't surprise me if Nick Caserio offloaded a 7th-round pick or a future 6 or something to go get somebody. And let's see what happens as you get into training camp. It's not like they can't line up and play football right now, but as you get into camp and as we approach the preseason, something to keep our eyes on.
I think from the football side of things, I mean, look, the Texans' strength on the defensive side, we've all agreed is going to be the back end of things. And look, on a football thing, they've lost. It appears they're going to lose a piece of that. Even if he's not the greatest, it matters when it comes to depth and getting through a regular season.
Can I add one last piece? I know you're trying to button it up, Michael. I'm sorry. And it just came to me. I also wonder, Cal is obviously Cal McNair, the one of the sons. He has the majority or the controlling interest of the team. His wife, Hannah, has been right there with him, lockstep, the entire way in the D'Amico Ryans, Nick Caserio era. I wonder how much of this, how loud is her voice in this conversation? What is her comfortability or lack thereof with, situations of this domestic variety? And ultimately, Jimmy Ward's career as a Texan could lie with the ownership and what their comfortability is, specifically by her being a female and being so public in the relationship with Cal. Just again, something to keep our eyes on and monitor. This is uncharted territory for the Texans in this era of D'Amico and Nick Caserio. Sorry about that.
We know that she gave Deshaun Watson the cold shoulder when Deshaun tried to come up and shake her hand after he shook Cal's hand when the Browns came back to town for the first time. Turned away. So I don't think that she's too interested in it. Let's talk about the 2025 season from the standpoint of, we talk about a lot of things that we might not like about the team sometimes, or where we're concerned about with the team sometimes. But I have a question for us when we return here on the Locked On Texans Squad show. Before we get there, though, I need to tell you about where you need to get your tickets. There's nothing like the NBA playoffs, the intensity, the buzzer beaters, fans losing their minds. It's the kind of atmosphere, you might want to experience live in this year's matchups. Well, they were absolutely fantastic at delivering. If you want in on Gametime, at Gametime, it's fast and easy to get tickets, even for the biggest events, including playoff games. Prices on the app actually drop closer to tip-off, and with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Gametime is a total game changer. You can hit on that app right now. There's a 10% off exclusive zone deal for the FIFA Club World Cup matchups coming up. Yeah, that's right. I love to also see the exact seat that I get when I'm going to the game, so check that out in the app. You'll find great deals for as low as $100 thanks to exclusive discounts. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price, guaranteed. Texan Squad Show on a Friday. I'm Michael Connor. That's Stan Norfleet and Iisha Morrison. John is off with us this week. He will be back on Tuesday when we do this once again, talking all things Houston Texans. As we are officially in the dead period, there is nothing on the field
5 weeks
till training camp. Hopefully, there's no
makes coaches nervous as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the time.
Work out, but work out cautiously, please, players. Don't do anything that's going to get you hurt between now and then, because that's the last thing you want to do is get into camp and start losing bodies left and right.
I almost said so. Nothing good typically happens after midnight when you're a multi-millionaire.
Or if you're a non-millionaire. This is why I go to bed at 10:40.
Right, Michael.
Yeah, like that. Bill Parcells say it all the time. Nothing happens good after midnight. Take it on into the house.
Yeah, or just do it at your house. Whatever you're doing, do it at your house. Just hang out there.
Yeah, so, Mike, we got to get to that another time because people say stuff like that. Okay, let's do it. So we got some time to kill. It's a Friday. So, speaking of the personal conduct policy, I've been asked on more than one occasion, Stan, I don't get when players get DUIs. There are mechanisms set up within the league that you can literally, in every NFL city, there's a number you can call, and free of charge, a car will come get you. They take you wherever you want to go. You're good, right? Problem. There are documented instances where teams, if you come get me, that means you know where you're coming to get me from, whatever the venue is or is not. You also are privy to how many people I had in the car, who was in the car with me, meaning group of dudes, other players, ladies, other questionable characters or not. All of that is documented and thus reported to the team. Now, it does not excuse, and nor am I condoning being irresponsible with your behavior, especially if you've been consuming any product or anything, right? Any substance. However, those things come up in negotiations with the player's agent about your whereabouts and activity. So I'm just using that to segue and say, I know that non-athletes and people that don't frequent the professional sports spaces say, oh, just have people come over. No.
Oh, here's the real thing. You don't even have to have people come over. Get an Uber.
Yes. I mean, I'm with you. I'm not excusing it. I'm just
use
saying,
your app on your phone.
Again, now I got some stranger taking me to my crib. Funky things happen.
But they have the option on there to pay for like the most expensive one where it's a professional, like licensed driver to where that's all those people do. They don't care.
Of course they do. If CJ Stroud gets in the back of a black SUV in Houston, people know that CJ Stroud.
No, they don't. When's the last time you've been in an Uber? I guarantee the last two Ubers I went in, those guys didn't. If I had asked them, they wouldn't have had a clue who CJ Stroud was.
I understand your point. I'm just acknowledging that it is. It's a conversation perhaps for another day. The nuances of navigating social spaces as a professional athlete. It's not just as easy as come to the crib. It's a little bit more challenging than that. And I remind you, with no laughing matter, this thing that Jimmy Ward is in, this happened at the crib.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't like people in my house. That's my thing.
All right, you were going somewhere totally different, MC. Where you going?
2025. We've talked a lot about, look, it's natural. It's what we do. We all think, I think in the very first show we did I still have them right here in front of me. We said how many wins they're going to have this season. Iisha had 10. John had 12. Stan, you had 10. I took 11. We're optimistic people. We want to see good things happen, right? Like that's a normal thing. But when we talk things, we'll also talk about the deficiencies that we see and what we're worried about. So I want to ask the question I've been looking at a lot of the prognostications across, whatever outlet that it is out there that puts things out in terms of how they're viewing the NFL season coming up. or even just the Vegas odds that are out there all over the place. I am blown away at how I feel like little respect they're getting for being they've won 20 games over the last 2 years, and they've won a playoff game each of the last 2 years. I know that they have not accomplished anything of significance, but I don't think it's anything to sneeze at. And they're bringing back all those players that have basically done it, and they've added to it as the years have gone on now. Are they underrated at all? I know that they play in the wrong conference as well for this, but are they underrated coming in?
Iisha?
What you got? I don't think they're I don't believe they're underrated. Especially too, I went and looked at ESPN's rankings, and I mean, they're the only AFC team in the top 15 outside of the Chiefs being number 1 and the Bills being number 3. They had, and I'm not saying I just completely trust ESPN. I ain't even gonna go there, but but they have the Texans at 13th. And a lot of that has to do with the secondary and the defense being good. I think that is I believe that maybe that's the biggest question, is if the offense is going to come to the party and what the offense is going to look like. I think people have some not skepticism, but they're cautious optimism, kind of like Stan, with the offense. People are almost sure that this defense is going to improve, that this defense has the ability to be dominant and probably be one of the best, if not the best in the league. But the questions about the offensive line and some of those things, I think, are kind of steering people. But I don't know, man. I feel like they getting respect, even from some of the rankings I've seen from the bigger networks and stuff. They're of the upper echelon in the AFC teams. So we lost Stan.
Yeah, Stan, it wouldn't be a show without Stan getting sniped at some point. Like it happens.
I know, that's literally like his thing. We got a plan for it. We need Michael. You need to get a soundboard. You need to get a sound.
Something, some sort of Here he is. It happened. We said it's not a Texans show without you getting sniped at least once.
It's ridiculous. I don't know what's going on in this area, but I'll fix that. I'm sorry. That's very unprofessional of me. But Iisha, I heard you talking about the ESPN. There's only one other you said the AFC team.
He said number 1, and then they have the Bills at 13. Oh, my bad. The Bengals are at 10.
They don't have Baltimore ranked ahead of Houston?
They have Baltimore at 5. I lied. I just skipped a whole bunch of players. I just skipped a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, they have like 3 teams ahead of them. I say it looks like Baltimore, Kansas City is number 1.
Right.
They have the Bills at 3.
Yeah.
They have the Ravens at 5. They have the Bengals at 10. And then they have the Texans at 13.
Am I wrong for still not buying Bills hype? Is that wrong of me?
No.
There's nothing about them. I know Josh Allen's a one-man show. Like, he's fun to watch and whatnot. But, like, I don't buy him.
Well,
what are you not buying about them?
That they're better than everybody else in the AFC. I think like they can get to an AFC championship again, of course. Like, they're capable, but I think that they're a team that the Texans, if like the Texans matched up against them, I would love the Texans every single time.
Well, the Texans beat Buffalo in the 2024 season here at NRG. They'll get a chance to do so again this season as well. I would take the Bills in terms of the projection. I
think he got sniped again.
Again, Stan?
Stan, the internet's not liking Stan at the moment. We'll see if he pops back up here in a second. He's somewhere. I don't know. You tell me. I watched the Bills. I watched the Buffalo Bills, and I'm just like, and it's not just about them. I get it that the AFC is incredibly difficult. You reeled off all those teams there, Baltimore. So, like, Cincinnati's going to get a ton of love this year because Joe Burrow's back. Or I shouldn't say Joe Burrow. Burrow was great last year, but they're thinking that they're going to be better. I don't know. I feel like the Texans are a little bit underrated when we talk about just,
So I think I could agree with you even in this ranking, because I did notice they have the Chargers ahead of the Texans, which I'm not buying that.
The Texans beat the Chargers in the playoffs.
If you want to say that people think they're underrated, I would say I'm not buying that. I could buy they're not as good as the Ravens. I could buy they're not as good as the Chargers. The Bills, the Chargers, no. I mean, I just don't. I don't see that. I mean, obviously the Chargers and they did add Amarion Hampton out of North Carolina, who I thought was only two to Ashton Jeanty in this draft as far as his ability. But I don't know. That's what a lot of people are basing it off of, is the Chargers getting better offensively, but I'm taking Stroud right now over Herbert. And I know Stroud is a nugget, but
Justin Herbert gets so much love, and I think he's got a great arm and all these things. And you watch him, and I kind of like Josh Allen. He's fun to watch sometimes, but then you look at, like, when does he make big plays? When does he do game-winning stuff constantly? Like, he's got the right coach now. I finally think he's got a good coach. He's got a good foundation there. But I mean, like, what about them? What the Texans kicked their butts in the playoffs last year. I don't understand.
I think it's really just the Texans offensive line and the losses that you guys took and all that stuff. And again, that's the biggest thing too, is that no one knows more about this team than y'all that are locally here, that are involved. A lot of these networks and stuff, I respect what they do, but they're not watching. They're not watching in depth the changes and the development and the littles. Like, they're not doing that. They're looking at this in a broad way. So it's like they're never going to know more than you. So you're always going to feel like they are sliding your team because they don't know. Stan, I cannot believe Stan still haven't figured.
Apparently the internet does not like him. We'll hopefully get Stan back in here at some point, because we do want to hear his. I felt like he was going to rail on at least one of those teams. Probably.
I really want to hear his thoughts on it. So I'm just like,
it's an incredibly difficult conference. I think we can all agree to that, no matter where we think the team is. It's, when you have the Kansas City Chiefs in it, you have the Baltimore Ravens in it, it's always going to be tough. And I'm not disrespecting any of those other teams. I do think that Buffalo will be a problem. I do think that Cincinnati will be a problem. I do think that the Chargers are somewhat of a problem to some people, but I will say this. I just don't completely understand why everybody loves these teams like the Bengals and the Chargers and the Bills. And I'm like, I watch them every year, and they do the same thing that the Texans do. They get in the playoffs, and they flame right out. So I don't get it. Hi, Stan.
Stan!
Hey. Good conversation, I'm sure.
Stan!
Sorry about that. All right. Are the Texans underrated? No. I'd have Baltimore, Kansas City, Baltimore, Buffalo. I'd have those three for sure. Maybe Cincinnati, if they can get their defensive players under contract, like their first-round rookie and their all-pro defensive end, if they get the defense together, which appears to be a challenge. But the Texans have beaten Cincinnati in the Joe Burrow era. With C.J. Stroud in that rookie 2023 season. They've also beaten Josh Allen and the Bills, but I would have the Bills ahead. Bills have been in the AFC Championship game recently. The Texans have not, ever. All right, so what do y'all want from me? Y'all want reasons for optimism for the 2025 Texans? I can give you that. Do you want me to give you realistic reasons for concern today on the Texans 2025 season? I can offer you that. I just okay, if this weren't the Texans, just humor me for a second. Mike, you asked if they're underrated. I think they're appropriately ranked. Let me say this to you. Yes, you've got a prolific young quarterback who regressed. Arguably the worst offensive line in the league a year ago. You bring in other bad offensive linemen to replace those more talented offensive linemen that performed poorly a year ago. You go get an off-injured wide receiver in the slot that a division rival, Jacksonville, got rid of, traded to you in Christian Kirk, who's played one game past December in the last two seasons, and two rookie wide receivers from Iowa State. If it weren't the Texans, a highly paid tight end that has not performed as such since the 2023 season where he got that new money, new contract, and you're going to promote the assistant offensive line coach is now the head offensive line coach for the offensive line that was the second worst in the league in terms of surrendering pressure and sacks. And you fire a guy in after his second season that was a first-time play caller, and you went and got another first-time play caller, 42-year-old Nick Caley. If I were to say that about any other team, would you be optimistic?
They got the right quarterback, maybe.
Well,
fair point.
Well, I think that's why I like we were talking about. You weren't on here, but I think that's why the questions is really because of the offensive line. It's obviously that trickles down to the quarterback's performances and things of that nature. So I think a lot of this is based off of the offensive line. It has nothing to do with the defense. It has nothing to do with what they think the defense is capable of. This is about the quarterback and the quarterback's ability to get the ball to these receivers and to be able to carry out. And then they don't know what this offense is going to look like. Well, we have an idea, but we don't know for sure what this offense is going to be. So it's a lot of questions. So, I mean, but you think even with all that said, Stan, you think that they're not where the Chargers are? You don't think that they should be ranked above the Chargers? Can you hear me, Michael?
I can hear you. I don't know if Stan can hear us. So I tell you what.
No, I can hear y'all. I can't see.
She's asking.
Iisha, but
she's asking you.
I can't hear her.
Oh, you can't hear her. Okay.
No, what she asked? Sorry.
Oh, I was asking.
What she asked?
Even with all of that said, how do you feel? How do you feel about the Chargers being ranked ahead of them?
Oh, now I got you. How do I feel about who being ranked ahead of them?
The Chargers.
That's more about
the coach, the new coach.
That's more about the Jim Harbaugh.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. I knew you were going to say that.
That's about Jim Harbaugh. The Chargers roster is not as robust as the Texans roster is.
Exactly.
Now they still have some players on there, but it's not the Texans roster. I saw Pro Football Focus had the Texans with the fourth best roster in the AFC. Now, I don't know about that. We will see. But okay, so clearly I am the term someone asked me, Stan, you seem like you're down on the Texans offense specifically. And I said, I am. The term I choose to use is cautiously optimistic. They may prove to put it together, because one thing that we got out of minicamp is that my suspicion was confirmed, and it came out of CJ Stroud's mouth. They're going to try and replicate early Brady in New England. CJ himself said that he has been watching Tom Brady cut-ups from the early years in New England. What did they do in New England? How did they win? They ran the football effectively. They were excellent on special teams, i.e. Adam Vinatieri, Slater, the all-pro special teamer. And then you also got an excellent defense being dialed up by Bill himself. Pass rush, coverage, they wait for other teams to make a mistake and they capitalize, and then Brady just didn't turn the ball over. They dink and dunk their way meticulously down the field. That's what they want from CJ. I think in today's NFL, with the rules steered so far offense, I think you need to certainly have the ability to play some ball control.
Be explosive.
But you got to be able to score chunks, man.
Yes,
the teams that are winning championships can score.
Yes.
Like people say, well, Stan, wait a minute, the Eagles run the ball and they got good defense. They do. But they also have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. Saquon Barkley, they are explosive.
Yes.
So you got to be able to do both.
Yes. You got to be able to do both.
What I'm hearing, though, is that the Texans dynasty starts in 2025. With that, let's go to the next segment. Who's up and who's down out of minicamp? We'll talk about that next year in the Locked On Texans Squad show. All right, we are back. Michael Connor, Iisha Morrison, Stan Norfleet. We're with you on a Friday. Thank you for stopping by. We've got plenty going on with the Texans as they now hit the period where they're not playing football or going and doing anything on the football field. They're doing stuff on the football field, but not as a team until training at camp gets started. All right, the team finishing minicamp and obviously finishing the entire offseason program, rookie minicamp, OTAs, all that stuff is done. The players that stood out and are on the rise. This is according to Jonathan M. Alexander of the Houston Chronicle, who
My
covers them on
man,
a daily basis.
JMA.
He does a very good job covering them.
Excellent.
We want to know who's trending up from him. I'll give you guys the names and pick a player that you want to even highlight or talk about here. But here's the names that he has on the trending up department. Stan's favorite, Jaden Higgins. Safety
No
Kalen Bullock, excuse me. Cade Stover, the tight end, who we've had some discussion about. Jake Andrews on the offensive line. Those are the players that he has trending up. So, Stan, do you want to go with your boy Jaden Higgins to start us off? I'm going to let, you know what, like, you pick, Stan. You do you.
Go ahead, Stan.
Who I think had a great or a good minicamp? Is that the question?
Are you buying this that any of these players are trending up? Are you? Yeah.
I will say apparently Cade Stover really came back, has worked on his body in the offseason. Cade Stover looks like, he's ready to go to work and be that tight end too. I don't know that he's going to be able to dethrone Dalton Schultz. The money and the reputation has a lot to do with that. But Cade Stover looks to be positioned, especially if they're going to this New England Patriots style offense from yesteryear. Multiple tight ends are going to be used. So Cade Stover is someone that could have helped himself. Obviously, the connection with C.J. Stroud going back to their days at Ohio State. Jaden Higgins, they tell me, the people that were at practice, the reports are, he looked like a first-round wide receiver out there. Yes, Michael, we know he was taking 2 picks in the second round. He's still officially a second rounder.
Oh.
Okay, that awesome. Hey, go have a wonderful camp. I sincerely hurt that Jaden Higgins is a baller. Am I buying that Higgins is like? I just come back. You're hanging your playoff hopes on a second round wide receiver. He's going to help, and that's enough for right now. None of those three. Who was the other one? It was Cade Stover, Higgins, and who?
Bullock and Jake Andrews.
Oh, yeah. Bullock's a baller. This Jake Andrews at center really pisses me off, but I've already been on that for a minute. They appear to just, like, Jared Patterson is going to need an act from the Lord above to get back in the seat. And it is wild to me what they're doing with Patterson, but okay, fine. Am I buying it? Sure. It's OTAs, no shoulder pads, fine.
Well, Stan, you took mine.
I really said everybody. Sorry.
No, you good. I will say, before I actually answer the question, I agree with you, Stan. I think that Cade Stover coming along is going to be intricate to your run game, but also to some of the multiplicity you kind of sound like you want to have in the passing game. I am going to keep my eye on Luke Lakey. How you say it? Is it Lockey. Oh, well, yeah. Way off. On Luke Lockey as well, because I think that he could be somebody that maybe makes the roster. You're going to run with 3 tight ends anyway and see what he can do. But anyway, Cade Stover was my guy just because of all the things you guys have said about Dalton Schultz and some of the uncertainty with him as well. But then also, too, and this team wants to run the ball, and you need to be able to run 12. You need to be able to run 21. You need to be able to be active. Now, I will say we didn't hear much about him, but I just think EJ Speed being available is going to help him in the future, and him getting the snaps, getting the reps, acclimating to the system is important. And with Christian Harris, he's supposed to be here during training camp. And that's what the word is. But EJ Speed is somebody that I think is important to what they want to do moving forward. And him just being comfortable is important to this linebacker core in general. So I'm going to say EJ Speed.
EJ Speed could prove to be extremely critical, given that we've seen suspensions and some injuries by Azeez Al-Shire. Henry To'o has also been banged up. So, quietly, I've got my eyeballs on that linebacking core from a depth standpoint. We'll see. EJ Speed could prove to be vital. He knows the division, former Indianapolis Colt, and was durable in 2024. I believe he played and started in all 17 games, going off the top of my head there. So I feel good about EJ Speed and that depth at the linebacker spot. Look, man, like, when you say somebody is rising in OTAs, what you're really looking for is like who looks in shape, who's changed their body, who's added a 1% dimension to their game, whether it be a pass rush move, whether it be a quick in time and breaking on the ball, coming out of your break as a DB, whether it be really coming, polishing your route, not giving away any tails at the top of your route as a wide receiver. Those are some of the finite things in the game. It's just very difficult. You know, we can't tell much about the quarterback given his arm. It sounds like CJ was throwing BBs though. It
Yeah.
sounded like he was dropping some dimes on fools in
Mhm.
OTAs, including Higgins as well as Cade Stover. So we'll see. I think Christian Kirk is going to get acclimated just fine. He's a professional on his third team now. I don't anticipate any challenges there other than can he stay healthy late into the season. I come back to what I said, man. I'm just cautiously optimistic
That's
about all of
okay.
these reports. Now, I trust the defense so much more. Like when I hear Will Anderson Jr. looks like Terminator 2, he was already the Terminator. Well, it's his third year. Technically, he would be Terminator 3. But you understand what I'm getting?
Mhm.
Like, I trust Will Anderson so much more.
Yeah.
Daniil Hunter, I trust him more. That defensive front, those guys, you know, Folo Fadakasi, and they don't have pads on either, obviously, but I trust him more. Derek Stingley has earned our trust. Not worried about him. So, like, I just look at that offensive side of the ball, and I like, you haven't had a defensive-minded head coach win the Super Bowl since Bill Belichick 2019. And like you have to take the Patriots, Belichick and Brady, you got to excuse that. Like, when's the last time you had a defensive minded head coach win the whole thing, not named Belichick? It's been a while. So if that's the case, I just keep looking at this offense and maybe they'll gel and it comes together and they pull off what Minnesota pulled off last year with Sam Darnold at quarterback. Maybe it's that type of run up until the postseason, of course. But I have my reservations, man. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, EJ Speed, he played in 15 games last year.
15 games. Okay.
I want to make sure
All right.
we gave people the right information.
Accurately got it.
No. But I was checking myself too. But I mean, I understand you being cautiously optimistic, Stan. I'm not even upset at you about it, especially if you feel like there were guys that were lost that the team didn't replace with people that are as good or hasn't proven they're as good. That's a very normal approach to take. Now, I will say, hearing things about Kalen Bullock is important to me. I've been watching him since college, and especially with everything that's going on in the secondary, I think he's going to be important as like the talker. And I know Stingley's a talker, but the communication, I believe, is going to be important on the back end as well. I wanted to ask y'all, so what did y'all think about the Texans did bring in a running back this week?
Sorry, we got a visitor to the show. The infamous
Hello.
the
Where's
infamous
the baby?
No, it's just a dog. She's
I mean,
clawing at me. Sorry.
Let me see that baby.
No, what were you saying about the running back?
So how do we feel? I know we talked about it a little bit, but are we chilling on? We talking about the optimism and all that. We chilling on the running back room right now. You guys feel more comfortable moving forward?
I do.
Wait for them to compete in training camp. We're set on it.
Somebody's probably the odd man out, so we can have some conversation about who is that. Is it Damian Pierce or Dare? I would say it would probably be Pierce. They love Dare at what he adds on special teams. Now, Damian Pierce adds things on special teams too. Dare just has more of them. Dare can play the up back on the punt team. Dare can play, a kickoff. Dare can also obviously kick. He saved us in 2023 as a backup kicker. I think that was against Tampa Bay where he saved our hide as a kicker there. So, like, Dare has more value. The running back room, I have confidence in Chubb that he can be at least half of what he was when he was peak Chubb. And if he's half of that guy, then the Texans will have arguably the best backfield in the AFC and one of the best backfields in the league combined. So yeah, I'm cool with the backfield. That's not the issue. I like that Chubb can take some carries away from and can spell Joe Mixon. And let's see what Woody Marks is. Like the rookies are just
I want to see.
You don't know how those rookies are going to translate on Sunday when it's for real. Some guys rise to the occasion, and some guys need a year or two. Some guys, I grew up in the Bill Parcells mindset. You give guys 3 years to show you who they are. If they don't have it in 3 years, it's probably not going to happen. Most of the time. So we'll see. That's all I can really say.
Before we get out of here, let's talk about the players that they have on the downward side, on the trending down side of things after mini camp and OTAs. We'll do that next year on the Locked On Texans Squad Show. All right, our final few minutes, and we're going to wrap it up with the one negative. There was a negative to start the show, but our one negative on players. How about this in terms of
other than my connection? Yeah.
Well,
okay.
You said it. We didn't say it. The Texans, though, have guys that are obviously Stanley Commission. There's going to be guys that don't make the team. And I do want to know of these players on this list that we're about to hear here from Jonathan Alexander, who we think won't make the team this year. In terms of trending down, he's got Juice Scruggs up there at the top because he was taking second and third team snaps and everything. Jarrett Patterson also on the trending down because he says that he took fewer first team snaps in minicamp than he has. Dameon Pierce, of course, makes this list because, they went and added Nick Chubb, and it's hard to imagine a world where Dameon Pierce, keeps going, especially because he has an undisclosed injury, as they put it. Jimmy Ward, we know why. We've already talked about that. And then at the bottom, and I would tend to put these guys on the trending down just because it's still to be determined. He has Blake Fisher, John Mechie, and Christian Harris. I guess if any of them are on the trending down, it's probably Mechie more than anybody else. But who do y'all think of that list of players is least likely to be on this team when we get to the regular season?
So who is? Oh, you can't hear. Who is the backup to Jake Andrews then?
Patterson.
So
who's on the trending down list?
Right. So Patterson and Scruggs are the centers.
Yeah.
But they haven't been playing Patterson. Patterson has been going with the threes.
And the
so
general
Scruggs technically would be.
But for us though, before coming into OTAs and stuff, we were looking at Patterson as should have been the starter.
Patterson should be the starter. That's why I'm looking at new OC Nick Caley and offensive line coach Greg Popovich. What's his name? Cole Popovich. And I'm just like, what the hell are y'all doing? Why is a man that started 18 games, the majority of them wins, the season that CJ had in 2023, and like, why are you not? And listen, they're over there in the room with him, but it sounds like you want to say Jared Patterson is the one that might be in the most trouble.
Well, what I'm trying to find out is, I think there's a player almost every year on most NFL teams that teams look at, they might value a little bit, and they are not trying to have them in I don't know. I'm trying to figure out if anyone that has any one of these guys that we think are just kind of falling behind has any type of trade value. That's what I'm asking.
Yes, Jared Patterson does for sure.
And that's what I was getting.
Blake Fisher does. Juice Scruggs does.
That's my point.
Mechie probably not so much.
I'm like, are these
Dameon
guys?
Pierce does.
I'm trying I'm trying to figure out, are these guys kind of getting not those reps or not in the limelight right now because of their play, or is it like, hey, we might need to be cautious of this, especially with some of the hits we've taken to our secondary and some of those things of like, are we going to need any of these guys in the future? But I would say out of all those guys you named, between the talk of Jaden Higgins and even Jalen Noel, I think somebody like Xavier Hutchinson is in a weird place too, as far as just reps, as far as just snaps, not necessarily not being on the team, but just, hey, big dog, like they drafted anybody in that receiver room. They drafted 2 receivers, and I know Noel missed some time, but in practices, but I just think they're all on notice a little bit right now for playing time. Xavier
Hutchinson is quietly like my sleeper, like could turn into a guy. Like I've been waiting for the
Well,
light
hey,
bulb.
according to John Alexander in the Mechie thing that he has down here, he says that he thinks it's going to come down to Xavier Hutchinson, John
Versus
Mechie,
Mitch. Yeah.
Justin Watson, and Braxton Berrios for the last wide receiver spot.
And that's they fighting for all my life. I had to. They are gonna, those guys down the roster. I think that's the biggest competition in camp. That's, to me, obviously outside the offensive line. Like this is where the money's gonna be made. And who
I have no
out of any of
confidence in
those,
Berrios.
and that's what I was about to say. Who gives you more
I don't have any confidence
and
in
the special teams
Berrios.
ability and the special teams ability.
I like what his resume was prior to the injury, but this is the first year back coming off the ACL, and you're on the cut line. I don't think today that Berrios makes it. Watson, D'Amico spoke glowingly of him during OTAs.
Yeah.
We will see if Watson coming over from Kansas City can give them something. I just think Hutch at some point goes, wait a minute. Now I got two dudes from my school in here pushing for more playing time than me, and I have a 2-year head start. Maybe he's been here with CJ the entire time, same draft class. I'm just hoping that Hutch goes, all right, let me get my butt in gear, and I give the team enough to keep my butt around. Here's something that I feel like I know. Nick Caserio traded up in the second round for Juice Scruggs. He's making the team. He also traded up a year later and got Blake Fisher. Am I missing somebody? Yeah. A year later, he got Blake Fisher. Traded up in the second round to get Fish. He's making the team. Those two are making the team. In my mind, I just can't see him doing it.
Okay.
I think the one that on the list for me that's got a chance to not be here is Juice Scruggs.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, they keep putting all these guys at guard over him. They're moving guys around, and it's like
he's running second team center right now.
I mean, they said right here. I mean, let's see. Yeah, he said second team guard, third team center is what John and Alexander
second team guard, third team center. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's a guarantee he's going. I don't know.
We haven't seen Nick. We have not seen Nick Caserio. And perfect, because I know that's a name we need to get out of here on. John Mechie was a Nick Caserio second round pick. They have given Mech every opportunity, plus some.
Well,
people want to run
Davis
Mills. They want to run him out the building. They have given Davis Mills every opportunity, again, as a backup to CJ. Davis Mills is still on the roster. We have not seen Nick Caserio move on from players, especially ones that he traded up to go get. Brevin Jordan, coming off injury, still on the roster. Like, Caserio guys will get every opportunity. And so years, 2 and going into year 2 and year 3, respectively, for Scruggs, Patterson, and Blake Fisher, I just can't see them not being on the roster.
Wow.
But I don't have the old key fob over at the Caserio office, so who knows what the man is actually going to do. My fob no longer works at NRG.
Dang, that stinks. All right, final words. Our own version of FaceTime as we say goodbye on a Friday night. Iisha, you want to start us?
I'm gonna say, football feels so far away and yet so close, and I'm ready. I'm already ready for it. Like, I know for a week I'm gonna be like, oh, that's cool, and then for a little, then I'm gonna start thinking about the sounds and the theme songs. So I'm sick. Like, I'm telling you, I'm sick. I'm already gonna be waiting for training camp. I think it's gonna be some good battles, and I'm ready for real football. I know Stan is. I'm ready for real football, but I hope no one else gets in the trouble.
Hope not. Stan,
the trouble.
For me, I think that this is a delicate space for D'Amico Ryans, and not just with Jimmy Ward. I think D'Amico has to embrace that this year is critical for him, because the whole organization shifts in about 6 months. Or what is it? Yeah, in about 6 months, 7 months. When you get ready to pay CJ Stroud $65 million a year, and then you got to pay Will Anderson the next year, or perhaps at the same time, it's going to change everything. And if this team is one and done again in the postseason, people are going to start the thought. I can't even say it's a whisper now. It's just a thought of what if D'Amico can't get them over the hump. They go one and done again, even paying CJ. Now Casario's got to restructure the entire way they go about doing their business model changes. I hope the guys on this Father's Day weekend, shout out to the fathers, I know, and the father figures, I'm a father figure, if you will, a mentor. I know MC is as well. To all the dads out there, especially, those associated with the organization, enjoy your weekend, do your deal, but you got to come back and go to work because this is a Super Bowl window. And if you miss this opportunity, we don't know when the next window is going to come. So I just think the Texans are being allowed to kind of Cadillac without the expectation. I think I'm in the minority going, bleep or get off the pot. This is a Super Bowl window. There should be a greater sense of urgency after the Father's Day break.
I'm with you. It's year 3. It's time to stop playing games. I think that's the only way to put it. I think it's the best way to end the show here tonight. Thank you guys for watching us. Thank you to Stan and Iisha. John will be back with us on Tuesday. We will talk to y'all again Tuesday night, 6 p.m. for the Locked On Texans Squad show.